risk, and it will broaden Medicare's involvement anywhere from $400,000 to $700,000 a year, based on the utilization, Medicare utilization of the building. So when I say that, Medicare utilizes the building currently about 60% of the time, up to 80%. So if we have the whole building, 100% of the building involved with Medicare reimbursement, now we're in a circumstance where our risk is minimized if it isn't open, or I'm sorry, if it isn't filled. And so the reason the facility was closed down was a perfect storm. It was a perfect storm. We had physicians yelling at surveyors in the hallway. We had unresponsiveness to the deficiencies that were written by administration for a number of reasons. And the state felt they had no other course but to close it down. I think they do have other courses. They could have brought in another administrator at the time. They could have done some things differently. I think if you look at their processes over the last 4 or 5 months, or 4 or 5 years, they've changed those processes. I don't really think that would happen again because of the disaster of the nursing home being closed. The hospital wasn't closed down, the nursing home was closed down, but the nursing home at that point in time probably represented 80% of the cash flow to the operation. And so that's why it looked like the hospital got closed down. But the emergency room and the lab were always open 24/7, and they were able to admit hospital patients into the hospital side during that closure. So again, I need to reemphasize, this nursing home has received a deficiency-free survey. Only 1% in the country have ever received that. It still maintains its 5-star rating. Our care given by employees there is absolutely superb, and the same care goes next door to the hospital side. But what we're really excited about now is we've turned the corner with providers who are up to speed with the newest technologies and the newest methods of treatment. And the nice part about it, they're just not new. They've been around, but they've really, really kept themselves at a level of expertise that's second to none in the state. Bill, did you have it?
Bill Upthegrove, Secretary Treasurer. I just need to make a footnote to something Mr. Hopp said earlier to your question about the loan repayment. Most of it's been repaid from operational money, but when the nursing home was closed and we were getting back on our feet, there was a $400,000 loan taken out for the hospital by the county. And in the first 2 years, this county helped us by making 2 $60,000 payments. We have since taken over that loan, and out of operational fund, we're just about to pay that off. The county also made us, and I don't know the right word, I'm going to say a grant of $100,000 if we would do some things, which included changing our bylaws. We did that, and they did grant us that money. Those are 2013, 2014 things. Just so, of the 2.8, there was some things that didn't come out of operational money, just for transparency in the group.
But they're paid off by transparency money.
Right. We have now taken that over, and as we establish ourselves more and more, we've taken over these debts and pay them ourselves.
Okay, a couple questions. So under the new model, how many beds need to be filled whether nursing home or the hospital side, for it to,
So if you take a look at our nursing home occupancy currently, right now, we're about 28, 27 patients. About 70% of those patients are Broadwater County residents. And so you do a little bit of the math there, that gets you down to 18 to 20, somewhere in there, 18 to 20. It's called intermediate skilled beds that are resident beds for nursing home. And that would leave us somewhere between 5 and 7 patients in the hospital side. We think that's the right size today. Now, the market's changing in Broadwater County. I think we've all seen kind of a pop go on people moving in the area. So that's where we'll probably be at for the next 2 to 5 years or less. Me personally, if you were asked me personally, I think nursing home care is going to grow and the demand is going to grow. Even though you may have other methods to keep people, quote, out of the nursing home, I think it's going to grow. But, you know, that's just me. There are a lot of people that say, hey, get out of that nursing home business. You're surveyed every year. It's a very grueling survey. And they're kind of there not to have you open, the surveyors. That's why achieving a deficiency-free survey is a huge deal in this state and in the country.
how will this affect the IGT
You know,
payment process?
The uncompensated care between $400,000 to $500,000 a year that we have to give if somebody walks through the door isn't going to go away. So IGT dollars are very important. The $200,000 to $300,000 that we are granted on the IGT is a big deal for us.
But
So it's not going to go away.
Will it go down though because the number of beds is going down in the nursing home?
No, I don't think so. It's not necessarily number of beds. We get paid for those beds. It's Medicare beds. It's the people who walk through the emergency room who can't pay, or the people who are admitted to a hospital who can't pay. And so I don't think that's going to change, although I think there is a positive adjustment in the sense that the clinic we're extending our hours, so it'll be open 10 hours a day from 8 to 6, that's close to 10. And so I think the ability to care for that patient in the clinic side versus walking into the expensive side of an emergency room. And keep in mind, I would challenge anybody, when you walk through that door and you've got an emergency, you're going to be seen within 30 minutes, but most of the time it's way quicker than that. And I would challenge any other ER in the state to meet our service expectations. We do a great job there. And I mentioned that referral burn centers, referral pediatric ICU centers, referral cardiac, referral midsection. People come back to us amazed at the preliminary care that we've given to save those lives to get them to the other place. It's pretty incredible. You can be really, really proud of your facility and the people in it. Bill.
I know, shut up, right?
No.
No, to further answer, Corey, your question, I think as long as we have to provide uncompensated care and it represents about 10% of what it costs to run the hospital, we'll probably always ask taxpayers to assist in some way. That might be through HILT money. Intergovernmental transfer, which was your question, is a state nursing home, and when we go to the hospital, you might find we'll ask for HILT money, but we won't be able to use the IGT program anymore.
Yeah, that just pertains to nursing home reimbursement.
Right, my
Yeah.
question was if the nursing home is contained within that license for the critical access hospital, do you still have access to that program, or
No.
does it go away?
We do not. We don't have access to the IGT dollar match
Right,
from Bill.
It really becomes a hospital instead of a nursing home.
Well, it really is a 25-bed critical access hospital, which allows you the flexibility to maintain residents in a nursing home setting in that 25 beds. That's the beauty about a 25-bed critical access hospital. You can house residents on the nursing home side, quote unquote, intermediate skilled. And you can flex those beds. You can have 15, you can have 20, you can have 25, you can have 17. The nice part about the legislation for critical access hospitals is that legislation was passed about 35 years ago. It's going to stay intact. Every of the 50 senators in the country have rural critical access hospitals in their backyard, and they know how important that rural care is. So it's not going to go away. It's a really positive, minimal risk licensure to it would take us, like I said, 3 to 6 months to make that transition. That's why we're asking for the bridge loan.
Dwayne Holm again. What interest would the county be getting this money for?
Well, we said we'd give them another % over what they're currently, and so that's what the legal documents are stated at this point in time. The other interest that they get is, again, I have to go back to closure. There was a payroll of about $480,000 totally a year when it was closed. Today it's about $3.4 million. That's $3.4 million injected into this community, along with the excellent care that's being provided. And so the county gets a lot.
What I'm asking is the interest difference.
Is 1% is what we're offering. The interest difference from what they're earning to what we offer.
What does it cost the county interest?
It's not
And
gonna,
then you're only giving 1%.
it's not gonna count.
You don't wanna
It's not gonna
borrow
cost the
6%.
county, because we'll pay for any of the penalty fees if there's a cash in on a CD, but that yet has to be negotiated.
so is the total 3% or 3.5 or what?
Well, high risk is,
No,
What we're getting
what-
right now is 1.14 to 2.36 for those CDs.
Okay,
What they're proposing and worked out with Mike was 3%.
3%?
So it's anywhere from the difference between 1.14 and 2.36.
the question that was brought to me is, why don't you go through MBAC? You have a line of credit, and that's what their purpose is where businesses have trouble financing and stuff like that. They're set up to take care of that.
So we're set up for a line of credit up to $900,000. We're now making payments on $500,000. We're at our limit with MBAC. We're at our limit with MBAC. So we can't go back to them. And the interesting part about that is we paid the first $500,000 off with MBAC, and they said, you know what? We'll extend another line of credit if you need it, up to a total of $900,000. We were at $500,000, now they're up at $900,000, but we're not gonna use that. Just 6.5% interest is different than 3%. And I think fiduciarily, we wanna get the lowest lowest rate possible.
Any more comments or questions?
You know, my name's Brad Campbell. I've been with this hospital as a trustee the last 5 years, from the worst moment on. And I've watched Kyle. It's essentially Kyle works for the board that I represent. and we've watched Kyle for the last 5 years, and he's taken this facility and this operation from almost nothing. The very first meeting we had, the first week that Kyle got here, was with the bankruptcy attorney and what we had to do to file for bankruptcy and close the hospital. And that's a process, believe me. But we, at that point, we made the decision that we were going to try and save this thing. Now, we wanted to save it for this community. You know, none of the board members have gained a penny out of this hospital. You know, every board member's put, you know, hundreds of hours into this. And we have supervised Kyle, and Kyle is the person that has made the difference. He is the reason that we have a fully staffed operating hospital today that is as good as anybody's rural hospital in this county. And when I sit here and listen to this conversation, and the tone is that, you know, we shouldn't, the tone is negative, I can't understand it. Because this county desperately needs this hospital. This county hospital provides jobs, and it provides health care to this community. And this hospital is owned by the county. And I don't want to take it too big a stretch, and Corey will get me, but you're really loaning money to yourself. Because it's your hospital.
Investing.
Hmm?
We're not loaning, we're investing.
Okay, invest. And if you invest money in this hospital, I just know that it'll come back to you. We will be successful. You know, we've gotten this far, I can't imagine for a moment that we're not gonna continue to grow this hospital. We're gonna provide more services to the county. When we change our license, we're gonna have 5 or 6 extra rooms that we can provide more service to this community. We can invite more doctors in to this community, specialists. We are on the edge of a great opportunity here. And please, don't blow it.
One more financial question. I'd like you to bring it back to, we were approved for a $2.9 million loan with the USDA to our own assisted living unit of 16 beds. We don't have any reserves, so we're operating on a shoestring, and to take the risk of going forward in that assisted living posed feasibility study. In that feasibility study, it told us that we would have to take almost 3 years to fill the assisted living up and to fill the 32 beds up. That's the kind of market that we had three years ago. And we just felt uncomfortable going forward, even though the loan was low interest, and we would have had that across the street all in one complex. We were reluctant to take that risk. And in fact, what's happened is new people have entered the market to respond to that need that we identified. But what's happening is part of that new market is having an adverse effect on our occupancies. We knew that. We said that in our feasibility study when we first looked at that. So I think as the markets change, we need that bridge loan to right-size the facility. And we think we can do it $1 million or under. And we think we're going to be pleasantly surprised because of the excellent medical staff. I had a person walk in the hospital today whose business is in Ennis. And they want to try out the new doc. And I think we're going to hear more and more of that. And the risk is minimal with the quality of medical staff that we have now. So, we'll work with Corey anyway, and I'm sure that Stuart Kirkpatrick will I know a lot of this stuff was built last week, and I'm sorry we didn't get it to you sooner, but it couldn't gotten to you sooner. We just tried to we wanted to ease your workload in 5 different documents and what that takes, and so I'm sure what needs to be worked out can be worked out with Stuart Kirkpatrick and Corey.
Yes, you said it's 2.9 million, can you still get that low interest loan?
You know what, it was specifically for an assisted living unit, and we've said we can't do an assisted living unit, so no, we don't have access to the 2.9 million anymore. And that was for construction purposes only, not operations.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Hugh Van Swearingen. I'm chairman of the district board. And to answer Corey's question about the existing loans, we have 2 more payments left. They're about $100,000 each. One will be due in February and in August. And both of those loans, I think, are fully secured by our mill levy. So that's no problem. Those loans are from the State Board of Investments.
Okay.
That loan is.
Next August or this coming?
No, we made our
Next.
August payment this year. We just made it. $100,000 payment. And we've got one due in February and another one due in August. That's it. That's the end of it. And they're secured. There's no problem with that.
So, Mr. Chairman, I have a couple questions, if I may. The first one is this is a county hospital, no question about it. So, I was the only commissioner here when the nursing home was shut down in 2011. One of the things we did is we got ourselves immersed really quickly into the ramifications to our community if everything was just lost, and it came pretty close. The downside for the public is horrific, and I can go into those details. I'm not going to, but because I don't want to look back, but this is a county hospital, county-owned. The hospital district board and THS actually hires the operations side of it. So yeah, this is an investment in ourselves, in our own community. The second thing is the downside of closure. Yeah, it's significant again. We got ourselves immersed in that, and one of the reasons that the commission has been historically supportive of the hospital has been because the downside of a closure is significant. So this plan came to us, and Mike, you've been working it the most, but it has been a nighttime meeting. I was in Canada and attended by phone, so it's open to anybody, whether you're in town or not, in the country or not. We've had several meetings here, the THS board, the district board, those are all open to the public. They've been open. And this has been widely talked about with the public. I know the 3 of us have gotten phone calls, slice of summer, of course it was a matter of discussion. So it's out there, the public is weighing in. As far as the investment side of it, like I said, we're getting 1.14 to 2.36 on our CDs, and those CDs have to stay for years and years and years in the investments. We're now talking a finite amount of time at 3% interest. That is a substantial increase. Is that good use and good investment of people's money? Yeah, it is, when you look at the interest rates. So, a couple of things that have been brought up. Can the hospital district and THS repay this? Yeah, they've already repaid $2.8 million in the darkest years of our community hospital. They were approved for 2.9, a better business plan. Tony has come up, and now we have another private business serving our seniors. Thank you for that. Okay, so now the hospital and their wisdom is looking at what's a different view for the hospital to better serve the community. And those of us who've attended the public meetings have quite a list of what they've been looking at. we didn't engage the Board of Investments, that's a state entity, but we do have a county board. It's actually a investment committee. We do have a member of that committee here today. We have spoken to a couple of those members of the committee. This is something they've talked about, so we have engaged them. Also Kyle, Michelle Barstow is a
Barstead.
board, Barstead, thank you, is a member of your board. She used to be with Montana Facility Finance under the Board of Investments, correct?
Right.
Did she ring any alarm bells?
You know, not really. She has been helpful to look at other avenues, but this is probably the most solid avenue that we have. And as long as you bring up Michelle Barstead, it's kind of an honor that we have her on our board. I mentioned this to other colleagues and they said, how did you get her on your board? She's a very, very strong financial manager and has actually probably given a loan to every facility at one time or another in the last 30 years through the state fund. So it's we're very fortunate to have her. Very fortunate to have John Nordwick, who's past CEO of the Bozeman Health, Bozeman Deaconess Hospital for 15 years. So whenever I say something cockamamie, they turn around and look at John and say, is that what we should be doing? And the other part of this that Brad alluded to, you've got the best board, I think, in the state of Montana. These guys and gals have really, really committed themselves to learning the hospital business. And it's incredible. They blow me away daily on the time commitment that they make to serve you and make sure it's the best little hospital in the state.
Ed, I could just say one more word. If you want to be sure and certain that this loan gets repaid, come use the hospital. Just use the hospital. That's all this hospital needs is more business. Because we have the staff. We have everything we need. Just get this 50% of the community that is still going to Helena needs to come home. And if you can help with that, convince them to come home, you won't have a problem in the world.
And I have two more comments. One is this hospital worth it to our community? Money-wise, income-wise, salary-wise, economic-wise, what about the one person you guys each know in this room, you each can pick one, whose life was saved? Is that one life worth our having a community hospital? My brother-in-law at 41 had a widowmaker heart attack. He lived 15 minutes from Great Falls Hospital by helicopter. He was told at the Great Falls Hospital, if he had gotten a helicopter from his ranch to Great Falls, he would not have made it. He needed the triage he got at the Shoto Hospital to be alive today. Even if our folks have to go to Bozeman or Helena, triaging at our hospital can and has saved lives. And by golly, that is worth it. So, I'm done with my soapbox. I have a request of you, Kyle. We have a bunch of documents here. We have some new information from Corey, or perhaps some old information about doing the registered warrants, or an investment. I'm easy either way. What I would like to do is propose a joint working meeting with a public meeting after. I think we need to have the hospital district board authorized, and you might be, Hugh, to sign the documents and to ensure that there is a repayment plan. And then I think title pages need to include the commission, as we are part of this, and that's one of the things that's missing. So if we could have a meeting, a working meeting this week, or Monday morning, and then next Monday, have the papers ready to sign to solidify this, I think we could be on a good track and have the legal minds involved to put their crosses to Ts and dots to Is. That's my proposal.
I'm going
Looking at
to,
the
a couple
commission.
things that Corey here and that he has in here. This is an investment, and therefore the county should treat it as an investment. It should utilize its investments experts, specifically the Board of Investments, to determine whether this is sound, the level of risk, and so on. These experts should have full access to all THS and hospital district finances to pore over the current as well as future planned operations in order to determine whether this is a safe use of $1 million public funds. And the other is that investment of this size should be not only well vetted by the county experts, but should also have input of the public. I recommend the county take the appropriate amount of time to not only review the available data, but ask all parties to present that date to the public at one or more public meetings. So with that, I would say that we'll table this, get these things going, so this information can be brought out at another time in these public meetings and go from there. So at this point, I'd say it's tabled till we get this information.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Go ahead.
So, what is the date? What's the date when it's too late?
It's about a 6-month process from the time we get a go-ahead. The longer we wait, the tougher it's gonna be. I think we were concerned looking into the late fall of how it would affect us financially. So I think late fall, December would be too late. So the sooner we can act on this, the better.
So, let me rephrase that. The date when the county gives you a yes or a no, that date, you're not saying all the way to end of December.
No, we
You're saying-
want to activate this currently. We lost $500,000 up to May.
Right.
And I think it's going to turn around. We have 4 or 5 patients in the hospital this morning. So I see a whole different utilization of the facility by having Dr. Kenny on board. But we're still 90 days to 6 months out before we collect $1 that's earned a day.
So the day when, what's the last day as far as the county commission says yes, signs the documents, or no, go get
Well,
a
that's
higher
really
district?
up to you, but we'd like it today.
Well,
And if it needs to be another week, we can work with that.
I'm saying it's 30 days too long,
No.
but
Do we need 30 days?
I'm
though?
just,
I mean,
I'm
It's
trying
already
to,
been 2 weeks.
I'm just trying to understand the timeline here, so.
I think it's fair to say 30 days. It gives everybody time to go through what they need to do. Bill? Secretary
If
Treasurer?
the hospital continues with 24 people in the nursing home, how much money do we lose monthly?
It's about 15 to 20,000 a month.
So how much longer do we need to keep losing $20,000 a month while we table something? That we'd have to make up some other way?
Well, I agree with Commissioner Roberts' suggestion in terms of the 2 boards. I think the 3 boards, yes. What it looks like was approved on the 13th by both boards was a loan request, which probably needs to be adjusted a little bit if we're doing the investment route. There's a couple of these things I'm planning on relying on Mako for. I mean, this is an unusual thing that I've never done. I don't know that the county's done one. Has the county had registered warrants with school district
Yes,
or
they
anybody
have.
else? They have?
They
Okay.
have had registered warrants before,
Yes.
many of them,
Was it school district or somebody else?
with the school district, basically.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and that was before our school district became a consolidated district. They had many little rural community schools and country schools, and there were many registered warrants out there.
Okay. So who's like the expert who did that many times that we could visit with? Is it yourself?
No, I did one, but that's all I did.
The State Bank of Townsend
Yeah.
used to buy a lot of the teachers' warrants, and then when the money came in, they would present them, so banks have done them.
Okay. Okay.
And Crowley Fleck has done some research on this, I'm sure that they can work with you on that.
But I guess what I put in the memo is for anybody that were to loan or invest $1 million, they're gonna do a lot of due diligence. And there's a lot of skepticism, which, you know, I would just urge the people in the hospital, don't get offended by that. But expect that of any business person that's saying, I'm taking $1 million out of whatever and putting it into this other investment. They're gonna do so if they have confidence. And so I would say if we could have a little bit of time to go through those
If we get it
things.
done 30 days or sooner, that's better. If it lags out 60 or 90 days, we actually may have to look at more money.
Right.
$1.2 million, $1.4 million.
Doug, could you give us some light on what the investment people told you about cash and these CDs for this?
Yeah. I talked with Todd Buchanan about a week ago. Told him kind of what we were thinking about. And he said right now is the best opportunity to cash these CDs in. The interest that we're getting on, we had approximately 14 CDs. When you total all those up, the balance of that was 1.6% is what we were getting across the board. The later ones are about 1%. We're getting out of where we can get 2.1 if we're lucky, if we put in a 4 or 5 year investment. But he said right now is the opportune time to cash those in for a couple of reasons. Right now the interest rate is up, which it hasn't been since 2009. And also the CDs that we've got, the ones he's looking at are old enough that our interest is gonna cover most of the penalty that we would get for cashing them in early. So the interest, I think, should be paid back because that is owed to the different departments and schools and hospitals where they go. But the interest is gonna cover any loss that we would have by cashing them in early. A lot of our bonds or our CDs are what they call step, which they start at 75% and go to 1% in a year and then up to 1.5%. And very, very rarely do those ever reach the maturity level. They cash them in when it gets to 1% and you end up investing again at 0.75. But he said right now is the opportune time to cash them in with the way the market is going. And 1.6 being the average for our bonds, if the hospital's giving us 2.5, I think that's a bonus for our investments because I can't buy a bond for 2.5.
So if they're paying 3, plus they're paying our penalty for cash and plus they're paying the penalty, instead of spending our interest on that, they're gonna pay the cash out fee on those. So is that something in 5 years, that's, in your opinion, that's a better investment than what we got everything in right now?
Oh, it's a better investment than I've seen since I've been treasurer.
Just a thought, this is a Norwegian thought, so you have to be careful with this. It's on my feet too, it's not, I haven't thought about it. So if you're, if we're paying interest and the $17,000 payment a month comes through, now you have an opportunity, I think, to take that $17,000 and invest it in a higher rate that's recent.
Right.
So you're, not only are you gonna make on the investment, you're gonna make on the cash in, plus when you go back into the market, now your CD would be theoretically higher. And I think we could sit down with the investors and just say, how can we work this the best for everybody involved?
Right,
And
these CDs that we would
might
cash
make,
in.
might make more than 3% is what I'm saying, because
Yeah.
coming back with the new 17 every month, you'd probably get a better rate than you would have had. And, oh,
Keeping it in.
yep.
Right, the CDs that we're cashing in aren't the step those are usually bonds. The ones we're cashing in, the interest isn't gonna go up on those. And most of them are within probably 2 years of maturity, of having to roll them over. So as like Kyle said, we would, with the money that they would pay back, we could reinvest those at a, hopefully a higher rate if the market keeps going the way it has. But it's not going by leaps and bounds. It's, for us to see a 3% interest rate, I don't know if I would still be in office for that. The other thing that I just would like to mention, you know, we look at this all at a financial aspect, and then as treasurer, I guess that's, would be my chief objective. But I was admitted to the emergency room in the darkest days of the hospital when the nursing home was closed down. My mother-in-law was a patient there at the time. We had to move her to Helena. I can't tell you what a hardship that was, and I can't even begin to explain the difference in care that she received here. And she got there, the first day she was there, she fell out of her wheelchair and got a knock to the head. She had no problems over here. And I'm not sure if it saved my life. When I was admitted, I had 9 broken ribs and 2 broken ears, and it sure made my trip to Helena a lot more enjoyable. I remember, I've been here in this community for 60 years, and I remember the days when you wanted to go to a doctor, you saw Vernon Swenson. And there was just no other thought of going anywhere else. And when he'd come in and he'd say, "Where does it hurt?" You'd tell him, and he'd push it and say, "Does it hurt more now?" "Yeah." Push it again. You know, I'd like to see it return to the time when like Mr. Campbell said, if you want to go to the doctor, you go here. That's what it's about. It's about having a community. It's not just about paying taxes and worrying about money and all that. It's about having a community and what you need in that community, and this community needs a hospital. We need it if someone gets hurt at the mill. We need it if someone gets hurt at Grey Rock. We need it. Some idiot falls off his pole barn and breaks 9 ribs. It's something that we need as a community. I don't think we can turn our back on the need that we have. It is a need for this community, in my opinion.
Okay, one more, go ahead.
Tony Simonson, I agree wholeheartedly. Without this facility, the hospital here, you're gonna have to go to Helena or you're going to Bozeman. In a lot of cases, it might be too late. We brought a gal in this morning that was having some chest pains that it was okay, thank the Lord, but if it would've needed more, they could've stabilized her, got her someplace. So, the one thing being new to the community is, I don't really have a tie to anything because I'm new, but the attitude of what Mr. Campbell was talking about, I think people have gotten really sensitive over this stuff. And it's okay to ask questions about this. And because questions give you answers and give you knowledge. And so just because somebody asks you a question you don't like, if you go to a bank and want to borrow $1 million, trust me, they were going to ask you a lot of questions that you're pretty uncomfortable about. So everybody needs to, we need the hospital, desperately need the hospital. But we need to let the community know what they're doing, why they're doing it, why this is a good deal, how it's going to pay off in 10 years. And I for one, think it's going to be a great thing. It's what you're seeing other rural hospitals forced in the same situation. In the state of Montana, this is a pretty common occurrence. It's just what they have to do to adjust to the current market conditions.
Okay, well, I guess the 2 boards get together on these
Before we
questions or-
move on, Mr. Chairman, I would like to actually set a date, to have a working meeting, have it open to the public, have the different boards here, and put some ideas on the table. And I would like, I'm afraid if we just say we're gonna table it, this goes under the carpet, and nothing's gonna get done, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days goes by, nothing gets done, and we get closer to closing the hospital, which is
Well, that's what
not
these
a
two
goal.
boards do, they get this.
So I'm gonna
Decide,
ask
get
that
this
we set
information
a
out there.
date to actually have the 3 boards involved. This commission needs to be involved. And I appreciate the work Mike has done so far on this, but I think it needs to be the full commission, totally open to the public, and we need to have the district and THS boards and other experts involved, the investment committee, administration. So if we could do that, Mike, if you're in agreement, it does look like Franklin and I are on opposite sides, and you're the tiebreaker.
I would like to do that meeting on, Monday afternoon. We do Monday afternoon
Yeah, we have a regular board meeting Thursday,
at 10:30.
and we can adjust that, but we could do a lot of the work possibly and report out Monday.
Okay,
What's the date, Monday?
31st?
31st.
Is that good with you, Hugh?
I'll make it.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question, please? Shirley Wilson. Is that enough time to have something in the paper so that all people in the county are aware? Or is it just going to be word of mouth? I think it needs to be public and,
We can get it, as long as we get it in the paper today before 5.
okay, just as long as there's a paper between now and that meeting, I think that's of utmost importance.
I agree with that. I would think that Monday would work. If we could do it. We have Monday morning. We've got commissioner meeting Monday morning, right?
We could do a working meeting and then have it open for decision if we wanted. We could
Okay.
either do that working meeting in the afternoon with decision, or we could meet in the morning with decision and then have our commission meeting afterwards.
I would rather do
Either
the
way.
working meeting in the afternoon. Then we have all afternoon to hash out whatever we have to hash out.
Just set the date and we'll be there.
So say next Monday at 1:30. You know, one thing I would like to say, since I've been thrown into the fire here the last 6 months that I've been attending these board meetings, is there's a lot of people on both the THS board and the district board that spend a lot of time and really care about what's going on here. I don't think that they enter this thing without numerous arguments about which way they're going and when they're gonna get there and how they're gonna do it. And I think that the one thing that we're missing here today is Jenny, and her and Kyle have both pretty much committed to saying, you know, we need $1 million, but we will limit ourselves to $750, as much as they possibly can. And I'd like to say to those board members, I really appreciate your time and stuff, and I've learned a lot in the 6 months that I've been there, so thank you for your time.
Go ahead, Corey.
So is a public meeting right after, or is it just gonna flow into one, or do you wanna set it? I still recommend a 5 PM public meeting, so
I think that would be a good idea.
people can come after work.
Yeah, have a 1:30 working meeting and then a 5 o'clock public meeting, or
And then do you want any of the members of your Board of Investments to come and speak, or what do you wanna do there?
well, I kinda think that the Board of Investment should be involved with our working meeting.
And it's not a board of investments. I think we need to get away from that term because it's inaccurate, because there's a board of investments at the
Statewide.
state level.
Yeah.
This is a committee. They are advisory. They're under Doug, and we have one of them here today. And we have others who are aware of this, so
And they're
yes.
called, what are they called? Are they just investment committee? Investment
Mhm,
committee?
County Investment Committee. And yes, we need to also invite them. So, the 1:30 working meeting, 5 o'clock public meeting, and then how about we schedule maybe a Wednesday decision? August 2nd, that work?
That works for me.
Okay. Does that work for you guys?
1:30, right?
Yep.
And then August 2nd at 10 o'clock.
And
Where?
and 5 o'clock's a public meeting.
Where do you wanna do all these meetings? Where? Here?
Right here?
Do you wanna use the courtroom for the public meeting? I think you're gonna have a bit of a crowd,
Have more room if
or all of them.
more people show up.
We don't have, I know we don't have court there next Monday afternoon, so, unless we get an unexpected something.
Okay. So be in the courtroom then. Okay, well, I guess that's set for now, so thanks for everybody coming and expressing their opinions and everything, and I can go through it another time. Thanks, Corey.
Yep.
So I got to work with you quite a bit on Lewiston. When I was administrator. What a pleasure. What a pleasure.
Okay. Yeah, some of them, yep, all right.
But they're going at 10:15, I forgot about adjusting the journal entries.
Probably was in his place.
I'll make a motion to accept the adjusted.
I review those as they come in. I second the motion. They are probably one of the most important things we need to do, and I think just hope we're doing as diligently as we need to, all three of us.
Journal entries, vote, all in favor? Motion passed.
I guess it's happening. I think that's what happened.
Okay, now let's go to Aurora County Cemetery policy.
That's 20, right?
Great kids. Really nice family.
They'll have their challenges, and will for the rest of their lives.
Some of his cohorts were, she's a little on the edge.
But her office hours are very.
I made it so that we can include the other one separate, but that we don't have to be held up with Winston Cemetery. So this is just Centerville at this time. And it's just what we talked about the other day, last week.
They didn't necessarily want to go.
$300 for a plot. A person can go ahead and put cremated remains there as well. They do need to have permission to do so. Obviously, you want to make sure the family's okay with it, the family isn't available, or loved ones.
Would the commissioners please speak up?
Thank you, yes.
Would those who are not in the meeting please leave the room?
Please go out in the hallway for discussion.
Please, dear.
What we're discussing is the Centerville Cemetery.
See you later.
And,
So last week, we discussed, we have 2 county cemeteries. And right now, there's no policies, no pricing, nothing. We've just gotten a survey for one of them done. And so we were asked by a funeral home to put together, what is the pricing? So what we did is we took, Mike brought in the Deep Creek Cemetery policies, we've just adopted those to county policies, a little bit more loose. We have track A at Centerville that will be reserved for indigent burials. And this includes a paragraph that actually just puts into black and white what our process is. And what that is the sheriff will follow the law, he has specific law, and he will determine if someone is indigent. If they are, it is his decision, or hers, to make that decision. And then the county pays that cost. And Wynn is actually negotiating the cost with the local funeral home too, so that it doesn't change from person to person. We've only had one since I've been here, so it's not something we have very often. Two since I've been here. And then the other thing is a cost. I was contacted and a person asked what the cost was to be buried at Centerville. We didn't have anything. So we actually stayed with Deep Creek's cost. We didn't want to undercut and we didn't want to overcut what the other cemeteries are doing in the county. They did have a piece in their policies that said that you can put cremated remains on somebody else's plot. We adopted the same thing, but just language that says you have to have permission of the loved ones if they're not available of the county, so we don't have somebody just putting their remains anywhere. And then the other thing is we didn't think it was necessary at a prairie cemetery to have height restrictions or have fencing, done around the different plots. But we did decide it was important to have no glass. We do have county maintenance that goes out as a prairie cemetery, so it's not manicured grass, it's more natural. But they do go out at least twice a year and take care of it, so we don't want them dealing with glass. And that's what it is. And I did provide a copy earlier this week, so the commission saw it.
So what is the price for?
$300 for a plot.
That's a cheaper way to go.
Yeah. And we don't have any of the requirements that you have a concrete pad under. It's really trying to keep this as in keeping with the history as we can.
Well, is there still because I was in Helena a couple months ago, there was some general discussion, but did the state pass a law to where you can bury yourself in your own property? Is there restrictions to that?
I believe there is a county resolution on that.
Yeah, I don't know.
We have to look. It seems to me like there's a county resolution on that, because there are some health issues with dirt.
I was just, I don't know why I thought of it. Okay.
And interesting, you should ask, we had a COS this morning with the family cemetery plot.
What's a COS?
Oh, I'm sorry, certificate of review. So, excuse me, somebody. Survey, thank you. So the person has acreage, and they said, we want this piece right here to be a family cemetery. So your question is timely.
I'd make a motion to adopt the policy and pricing for Rutherford County cemeteries.
I was second.
Okay, moved and second, accept the policy for Rutherford County Cemetery.
We got more, we got a lot.
Sure, I thought somebody else was on. Anyway, is there a movement and
Just move them
second?
on down the hall.
Any more discussion? No more discussion, we'll go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.
If we could sign this one, it has the signatures attached.
I'll bring the Mylars for the Centerville Cemetery in for, on Wednesday during the meeting and just leave them so that you guys can all sign them and file them then at your leisure.
Thank you.
So that'll be
Perfect.
done. All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Adopt the county tax overpayment policy.
And that's also a letter that's in